Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing great and following the 3H's of the channel. In this video, I have 5 encounters that span all the way from Texas to Europe, so if that sounds like something you're interested in, pull up a stump with me and let's jump into it. Thank you for watching. So this story is just something really bizarre and weird that happened to me. I live in a small town in Texas. I was watching the news with a few friends. There was a story on there about some lights being seen over a forest. It was a popular camping spot, and it was only about a 45-minute drive from my house. Me and my friends decide to go camp there and see if we can see anything. So 3 days later, we arrive and we have all of our stuff. We set up camp. My friends get shit-faced, but I didn't. For whatever reason that day, my stomach felt weird. I couldn't handle alcohol, so I just didn't drink. Otherwise, I'd be right there with them. It's about 1 a.m. now. My friends drunkenly stumble to their tents. I was still somewhat awake, so I just wandered around so that maybe I could smoke a cigarette before finally going to bed. Around 1:30-ish a.m., I see someone walking around. I could tell they were smoking because the cherry on their cigarette was bobbing up and down as they walked. Keep in mind, in small-town Texas, something like UFOs attracts a good number of people, so seeing someone else walk around wasn't really that shocking. We were both walking the same direction, about 100 feet away from each other, but here's where the really bizarre thing happens. We get to this well-lit trail. I glance over to see who this mystery person is. It's me. The same green wife beater, the same green jacket, the same hairstyle, the same glasses, shoes, shorts, the same brand of cigarette, right down to the same Majora's Mask tattoo that I have. I see him look up and glance back at me. The person then changes direction and then starts coming toward me quite fast. I tap into 4 years of track and nope back to the campsite and sleep in my truck. I read somewhere that because we only see ourselves in mirrors or photos, if we were to see our own clone, we wouldn't recognize them. But I swear to God that that was me that I saw on the trail. This incident took place a few years ago. Initially, I wanted to post my encounter somewhere online, but the more I thought about this encounter, the more it consumed me and my thoughts. Sometime after the fact, I decided that the best thing to do was to just try and forget. This didn't work, so instead, I'll do my best to lay out what I saw. I live in North Carolina. It's not a small city by any means, but it's a highway town at its core. I have lived here for 10 plus years. On the night in question, I was with my ex. We'll refer to her as Z. This was right around the time when the plague restrictions had yet to be fully lifted, so Z invited me to go for a walk. She was finishing up her online courses for the semester, one being physical activity, so we'd often walk around her neighborhood to reach the daily amount of steps. Anyways, we head out on this walk. It's about 7 to 8 p.m., so on our way out, the sun is already setting. We stick to the street, as it isn't a sidewalk, and we're just walking through the neighborhood. I've been down this area hundreds of times. I drove there nearly every day to be with Z during the plague. It's just your average, single-story, cookie-cutter, every house looks identical in the neighborhood. On our way back to the house, it's dusk, a weird time of day, especially this evening. It was almost a gray-looking atmosphere, but still illuminated enough to see the streets. Z is on a phone call for the entirety of the way back, so I'm just taking in my surroundings and waiting for the walk to be finished. That's when I see it. Whatever this thing was, that is. About 3 houses down, mid-jump, arms and legs fully outstretched and leaping across the street. It lands on the other side in an instant, with barely enough time to register that anything had happened at all. At the time, it felt like a hallucination, something fictional that my brain had just conjured up out of boredom or lack of visual content. It happened so quickly, but this flash frame is burned into my memory now and is something that I'll probably never forget. It was huge and 100% silent. I only caught sight of it flying across the street and landing underneath of a car. It was fully outstretched and took up almost the entirety of the street. Even with its hands on the ground, its rear legs were still stretched from the jump and extended far beyond the halfway point of this 2-lane road. I can only guess the size of this thing, from 10 to 20 feet in length. It looked extremely thin, beyond anorexic, but startlingly human from the waist up. 100% dark gray. Its arms seemed to be car length, with large claws, and its legs were bowed in a way that reminded me of a dog. The only feature that I couldn't make out was its face. It seemed completely black, but scarily human. Again, at the time I had no idea if what I saw was some sort of weird animal or just a hallucination. Even so, I kept my eyes glued to where I had seen this thing land. As I got closer and closer to the car, I almost wanted to freak out. Z was still on the phone though, so I decided to keep quiet and inspect the car for myself as we walked by. I turned my head as we slowly passed by the vehicle. At this point, I'm convincing myself that what I had seen couldn't and shouldn't be possible, but I just couldn't bring myself to peer and look underneath of the car. As we walked away, I turned back a few times, really trying to process if I lost my mind for a moment or not. By the time we get home, I feel almost embarrassed that I just have a stare down with a car for absolutely no reason. By the time we walk inside Z's house, she's off the phone. We were kind of bummed that our walk was void of conversation, so we just catch up and converse for the next half hour. This hallucination had almost completely left my mind at this point. We just ended up going about our usual business. Honestly, I was just happy to be spending time with my partner. I was ready to accept that what had happened earlier was nothing more than my imagination. I would like to share what happened to me in mid-April 2015. It was the end of the afternoon and the light was still good. I had decided to take a little walk in the Jura mountains. This is in eastern France, where I live, with a friend and my little dog. We chose a place where I had parked my car and began to walk in. It didn't take long before I began to feel nervous. As we were walking, we heard a horrible noise. It sounded like doves, but they were not singing. They were screaming. It was the first time that I had ever heard a noise like this. I laughed and said to my friend, "I feel like they don't want us in the forest for some reason." We pushed on, and the path was wide as we got further along. Suddenly, I noticed something moving down the track to the side of us. I realized it was an animal, and I thought that it was a large dog. The color was very black. I was upset, and I told my friend that I'd rather go back to the car. I didn't want my little dog to cross what I thought was a big dog off of its leash. Luckily, mine was on a leash. I started to turn around and return to the car, but my friend stayed and watched to see if she could place the rogue dog without an owner. I was walking for a few minutes when I heard my friend screaming, "Run, run," without looking back. I accelerated my pace and arrived at the car, out of breath. I put my little dog into the car. Before I got into the car, I looked down the path, and I saw a deep black-colored creature walking into the forest, away from us. I was so surprised and shocked that I couldn't believe it. I could only see the top up to the shoulders of the creature. My friend who joined me at the car explained to me what she saw. She said that this creature moved by slipping at a high speed along the side, and then seemed to get its momentum, and then straightened up to run on its hind legs. My friend told me, and this is what I can confirm, that the thing was over 2 meters tall. We couldn't see its eyes. The creature stopped when it saw my friend. They looked at each other for a few seconds, and then the creature decided to turn into the woods. My friend told me that it had the head of a dog, and the ears were pinned way down. This creature had a muscular body, torso and thighs, that was covered with deep black hair. We were shocked. We later decided to go back to the forest and see if there was some kind of explanation to all this, but I didn't notice anything strange that would answer this puzzle. And then I told my friend that we should try to get back to this place before nightfall. So we did this 2 weeks later. It's strange, you see, because when we got out of the car on the evening visit, we immediately felt something was wrong. The atmosphere was very different. There was complete silence. We began to walk, and after a few minutes, I felt that anxiety again. I decided to go back, and my friend tried to push on into the trees, but she also came back running. She said the creature was there again. It was standing in the woods. It was looking at us. Thankfully, I had not seen the creature this time. We would like to be courageous enough to take pictures of the creature. I know that we are not the only ones who have seen this dogman or werewolf or whatever it is. We learned that someone else saw it as well a few days later. So I tell my friends to be careful if they decide to go into any forest, especially if the forest is abnormally silent. As I do with everyone who comes forward, I asked if they ever had experienced anything else unusual or unexplained, either in this area or at any other point in time. And this is not my first time that I've had something strange happen in the forest. The first dates back to 5 or 6 years, previously in August. I had never heard of the name Dogman until quite recently. I must tell you that I have always loved nature, fields, and forests since my childhood. I always went to the woods a lot, but that year, while I was going to fetch mushrooms, I felt uncomfortable without understanding why. Several times I went back to the car. I regained my senses, and then I found myself confused, and then I understood what was bothering me. It was the abnormal, total silence in the middle of the summer. One morning I arrived early and got on a trail. I saw a black mass at the end, and I thought that it was a tree stump. I continued to search for my mushrooms, and gradually moved closer to the tree stump. When I looked up, my heart started thumping so hard I could hear it outside of my chest. I did not understand what I had in front of me, what I was seeing with my own eyes. Imagine a human being squatting, with their head on their chest, sleeping. But it was not a human being. It was covered with black hair everywhere. It was not a boar. It was not a badger. I did not understand what it was, and especially as that I had never felt such a feeling of panic in my life. I started backing up, praying that this creature would not wake up, and I ran away without turning around. I have never been able to return to the forest after I made the observation of the creature I saw and told you about. In the meantime, I had learned the Dogman story, that people were seeing them and that they could be dangerous. In April, I was with my friend. My friend is a medium and can see and experience the dead. So, I think that there is a connection there. Since I have known her, I'm starting to see some weird things on my lot in front of my house with my camera at night. My little dog is also seeing and reacting to things that I do not see with my naked eyes. When he growls, I take a picture in the dark, and there are orbs, colored tubes, shapes that seem to move. As far as the Dogman is concerned, it's a very real creature. The story disturbs me. I really want to know, but I'm scared to go back. Yet at no time did it really show any aggression. It could have arrived on us without problem. It was moving fast, with long strides. I know that I will return to this forest someday, despite my fear, but I'm not going alone. My friend went back to her home in the north of France. When she was face to face with this creature, a small inner voice pushed her to go with it, but her survival instinct took over. My friend told me that she remembered almost a past life experience. She was in the forest by humans. She had seen two wolves that accompanied her, a white one and a black one that protected her. When she was captured as a witch, the people killed the wolves in front of her cruelly, and she thinks now maybe she has some kind of connection with them. I would like to talk about something that happened when I was 16. I was partying in Europe with my French cousin. We went to some place near the Swiss-French border where you can camp but be near civilization, so you're not too far out there. So the party camp was like 15 minutes from civilization. My big cousin takes me there. As you can imagine, at 16 years of age, my main intention is to get drunk. And while there, we meet two cute girls. They tell me that I should come to the night party with them and just hang out with them. And I think, well, this is great for me. I'm only 16, so sure. So I meet up with the two girls and their two friends. The two girls and me both start dancing, and as the night progresses and we both get drunker, we start kissing and stuff. One of them is better looking than the other, so I focus on that one. The other one dips and starts looking for other guys to hook up with. I think her name was Stacy. She's important in this. For me, I wasn't even mad. The girl I'm with takes me to her car. We finish the business and sit on a bench by her campsite for a bit. Two friends, not Stacy, come up looking for us. They say, have you guys seen Stacy? We haven't. The girls say that she isn't answering her phone. I say that she's probably with a guy because I saw her flirting with a couple of dudes at the party tent. The girl I was with shuts down completely. She starts talking about how this is all her fault. I try to be consoling and stuff, even though I have no idea what's going on. For me, I just think, yeah, she's just off making out with somebody. What's the big deal? The other girls tell me that I have to help them look for her. I don't really know what to do. I don't know the area, but I'll try. The whole place is fenced off, so I suggest that we ask the people at the gate to the grounds if she had left. A couple of the girls spoke in French to each other. All I got out of it was useless dickhead speak. We end up turning half the campground into a search party, looking for her, despite the fact that I literally don't know what I'm doing, or kinda don't really want to. The girls are determined to find her, and they insist that something is horribly wrong. At one point during searching, one girl breaks down crying, and we take her to their campsite. The girl I was with is sitting right where we left her, and she's still completely unresponsive. Me and the somewhat composed girl are still looking around. I tell her that I want to split up to cover more ground, but honestly, I feel like I need to sit down. I feel weird. My cousin comes over and tells me about how crazy these lights were that he saw. At first, I assumed that he was just tripping because he had a bag of mushrooms, so I laughed and assumed that he did some of those. But then he shows me the bag of mushrooms. There's none missing. It's totally closed. He asks if I have seen a girl named Stacy. Some chicks are looking for her. I tell him what happened. He makes fun of me, asking me what the hell I've got myself into this time. Now after a couple hours, something strange happens. We go to check on the girls again. They're all at the table. Stacy is there too. I say, "Oh, you're back." Everyone seems really odd except for Stacy. I ask where she was. She tells me that she isn't sure. I jokingly ask, "Well then where'd you come from?" She straight faces and points to a line of trees with the fence behind them and says, "Over there, I think." I don't know what happened, but having talked to my cousin about it, he brought it up when we got back to his place in Lyon. I asked him what was so important that we talked about, and he swears that it was aliens. Aliens had abducted Stacy, and that somehow all those girls at the campsite have a history with that. They've all been abducted. And the girl going completely unresponsive when her friend went missing was basically a trauma response. And the reason why he had asked me what I got myself into was because those girls are known for this. But then, one of them actually went missing and came back. For him, it verified that they were telling the truth. This happened in the Sierra Nevadas in Yosemite Valley, California. It was a place that I had been looking forward to hiking for a long time. I had prepared all my gear the previous night, double checking everything. Water, food, tent, map, everything. I was just itching to get out there and explore. The sun's peeking up over the horizon, and it's just so serene there. Anyway, a few hours into the hike, I stopped to refuel, taking a bit of a breather. I found a nook near a stream. I'm settling down to eat, and I hear this sound. First I think it's probably a squirrel or something, but then the sound gets louder and heavier. Suddenly I'm on alert. I'm no stranger to wildlife, and I instantly knew that this was different. I can just feel it in my gut. So I decided to move toward it and check it out. I tread lightly, trying to figure out the source of the sound, and then I see this creature. It's not a bear, not a mountain lion, not anything that you would expect to see in the mountains. It was something different. The creature stood on its hind legs like a human, but was much taller. The body was covered in these scales, like a lizard, but these were larger, almost kind of like armor plating. There was also a dark green color, almost black in some places, and its limbs were muscular but lean, like a runner's build, but way more powerful. The head had to be the most striking part. It had these slanted, almond-shaped eyes that glowed an eerie yellow. It didn't have a snout, more like a flat face. There were these slits where a nose should be, and the mouth was filled with sharp, jagged teeth, but not like a predator's teeth, more like rows of serrated knives, if that makes sense. I didn't see any wings or anything else like that, but it did have a long tail, almost as long as its body, like a kangaroo's tail. It had 4 fingers, but they were long and ended in these sharp curved claws. The thing that I remember the most was that the creature moved so smoothly, like water flowing over rocks, almost graceful. You're probably thinking that I'm pulling your leg or messing with you, but I swear that this is exactly what I saw. This reptilian-like creature was some next level, out of this world kind of being. I had a good 5 minutes or so to just stare at the thing. It's standing there at the edge of the clearing, just observing me, like it's trying to figure me out. It didn't seem hostile, but I mean it was freaky as hell. I didn't want to provoke it, but instead of coming at me, it just kind of mirrored me as I moved. It was like we were doing some kind of dance. I know it sounds nuts, but it was as if the creature was just as curious about me as I was about it. We stood there for what felt like hours, but I'm sure it was just minutes. At one point, I could swear it made a sound like a low hum or something. I couldn't make much of it, but it didn't seem threatening. Then suddenly, it turned and disappeared. I was in shock. I mean, what did I just witness? So now at this point, there I was, alone in the clearing with my heart pounding like a drum. I'm just standing there, wondering if this really just happened. I was trying to process everything. I decided to follow in the direction where the creature went. I couldn't just let it go. I had to know more. As I moved closer to where it disappeared, I noticed these huge tracks on the ground. It was not anything like I had ever seen in any guidebook. The air felt different too, almost electric. It felt charged, and there was this energy around that I just can't explain. I pushed through the undergrowth, following the tracks. It felt like I was in some kind of a dream or a movie, like at any moment I would just wake up back in my tent and it would all be over. But no, this was real, and it was actually happening. I walked further into the woods. I noticed that the tracks became harder to find. Then they started to disappear. It was like the creature had just vanished into thin air. I must have looked around for an hour or more, but there was no sign of it. It was gone. But I swear to you that every time I closed my eyes that night, I could see those eyes. Its form was burned into my memory. I still can't believe what I saw that day. So those encounters were pretty insane, weren't they? If one of them in particular stuck out to you, let me know which one it was down in the comments. If you have an encounter of your own, or would like to donate to the channel, I have links in the description below that you can do that in. And with that, I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for pulling up a stump with me. Thank you for watching. Have a good week, and make sure to be nice to yourself during this holiday season.